Ways the New Age is keeping people stuck and how to recognize these ways for what they are. This is going to be a brief overview of it, just to show you what's really going on. And keep in mind, even though this focuses on the 7 ways the New Age is keeping you stuck, you can apply quite a few also for other cult-like mentalities, such as a religious mentality, as you'll see in the next point, and other types of worships that people do, because there is an overlap for sure. But because this is going to be the focus on the New Age, we're just going to discuss the way that the New Age is keeping people stuck. A very significant one, ta-da, you heard me talk about this so many times, is the need to call in entities. If you're new to this channel, I think I have at least 2 or 3 different videos on it. I'll pop them all up below as I'm talking. But, you know, the needing to calling people in, calling entities in, which are basically just astral entities or AI, and the needing to channel goes hand in hand with also needing to ask these entities for assistance. So my main question is always, when that pops up somehow, because someone's promoting this, well, if you're truly as powerful as the New Age wants you to believe you are, why do you need to call upon anything or anyone, right? You're still pretty much giving your power away to these random entities. A lot of these entities, let's just say the archangels, the angels, the spirit guides, or how I like to call them, the spirit misguides, are not what you think they are anyhow. So the angels are just random AI, astral entities, depending on which one in particular you're communicating with. The archangels, same thing. You're not actually communicating with what you think is an archangel. It's just yet another version of a pretty dark astral entity. A spirit guide is usually just a mischievous entity. That's why I call them misguide. And an ancestor is, for the majority of it, will never be an ancestor who you think was someone in your bloodline or ancestry. But it's, yet again, just another mischievous entity. Others are like Jesus, Mary, like all of the whatever else they're worshiping. And this is kind of where the overlap to religion comes in, because it's the same thing. You know, you're asking a God for assistance. Oh, help me, like the praying, all of this. And also, you're asking, again, the angels and archangels to help with assistance. So actually, this is quite similar to religion. And there are a few other points that go with that too. But this is a main one. Calling in or seeing the need to call upon these entities, the need to worship something like the Lionsgate portal, which is a portal opening up a whole bunch of chaos, and just the channeling, all of that. So working with entities in general, a huge no. And another point that is somewhat related to it is that you need to follow all these, let's just say you're following a certain leader or someone's account. You need to follow their daily, weekly, monthly energy check-ins. Oh, now the energy has shifted from this to that, and these are the reasons for it. I bunched astrology forecasts into this too. Although astrology is a little bit different from New Age, yes, it can be seen as a New Age tool, absolutely. And I do think the majority of astrologers are very much New Age inclined in today's times. But astrology goes in it, especially when people have these daily forecasts or daily horoscopes for each sign, you know, completely ignoring that this is not how astrology is supposed to be used at all. You know, you're not supposed to call upon these things like every single freaking day or whatever. Like it's again, it's a tool that's outside of you. You know, if you want to tune into something, tune into your very own intuition, but not these daily check-ins or weekly or monthly check-ins. And another one that goes into that is also, oh, the full moon update or the new moon update, or this is what's going on, that's going on. I mean, you're already half lost once you start following all of that. It's extremely confusing, not just mentally and physically, but also on an energetic level. It's extremely confusing when you follow all these random updates, especially when you follow more than one person. So if you're just say you're subscribed to 2 or 3 people who give you a different update every single day, it's just extremely misleading and confusing for you on a soul level, because you're not supposed to be following other people's advice day in and day out. This also goes for any other sector, not just a New Age sector. And it's really, you know, when they keep preaching about, oh, it's part of self-empowerment, which the New Age likes to bunch up as well, this has nothing to do with self-empowerment. You need to take charge of your life, and you don't do that by following these daily updates or weekly updates or monthly updates. And the best way, like I always like to say, the best way to create a future is simply by creating it, or the best way to predict a future is by simply creating it. And so there's no need to really follow these random predictions from a whole bunch of other people. The ego that a lot of these people have, the ego that a lot of these leaders have, an ego meaning an actual ego, not ego in the sense of, oh, ego is this, the ego is bad, whatever. But no, people have an actual ego, right? Ego means arrogance, ego means overconfidence, those type of things. The ego that a lot of these people have is equally outrageous, as are their messages filled with disinformation and absurdity, and they really don't get you anywhere. Another point is, it's your fault your life has gone downhill. You can't manifest any abundance in your reality because of your low vibrational mindset, because of your negativity, because of this and that. This is why you can't ever have better in your life, because you're not a vibrational match. All of these sayings, because I'm sure a lot of you have heard them. So for me, that's a form of gaslighting that's happening. It's gaslighting that it's your own energy, your own vibration, your own fault for being stuck in life, instead of getting to the actual root of what's causing it. Maybe you're a targeted individual, and from day one, they're trying to get you. Of course, there are ways around that too. Of course, there's ways to improve your life in that too, but you need to be aware of that and really understand what's going on in this matrix reality in order to kind of transform your life or make it better in that way. And yes, I do strongly believe we can absolutely make our lives better, but not through the gaslighting that, oh, it's your fault for not being able to manifest these things, or not being able, it's your fault that you haven't found the love of your life, or you push this person away. It's no. This is, once again, not taking responsibility for the actual situation, for the trauma that people have experienced as well. And that a lot of things that are happening in our reality is also like just a trauma response. And I really strongly feel that most people who are still stuck in the New Age or some sort of cult-like mentality, and since we're discussing the New Age, I'm just going to discuss the New Age in this video. People who are really drawn to just following someone and need a leader are the ones who have experienced the most trauma in their lives. And and they've never experienced how they can actually take charge of their own lives, because it's never been taught to them in any form or another. And that's why they keep falling into this, like from one cult-like mentality to another. And this is where you have ex-New Agers falling into the religious trap, falling yet into another trap, and from one to one, instead of just sitting still in the chaos that their life is about, or that they perhaps have even created with all of the self-sabotage that's going on. I do think self-sabotage is a thing, but not in the way that the New Age is gaslighting you. And I think there are deeper reasons behind us self-sabotaging our lives too. And yes, they can absolutely go back into childhood or even previous situations that we've had, but you need to recognize the pattern in order to change it. And a lot of people don't want to take that responsibility to recognize it. And this goes for a lot of different spectrums, not just the New Age, but you see it a lot in the New Age, unfortunately. Another huge point is the 5D and ascension. And this has been preached for so long, not just the past few decades, not just since 2014 and on, but for sure, most likely hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I bunch the age of Aquarius into this too. Not so much the one that's related to astrology and, oh, we're in this, we're in that, which I think there's a little bit of validity to it, but really the one the New Age is pushing. So what you see is, oh, we're going to ascend. Oh, it doesn't matter what's happening here anyhow, because we're basically already in the 5D, and you're just interacting with the 3D when you interact with these low vibrational people, or you're just interacting, you're just going from one to one over the 4D bridge, all those things. These concepts, first of all, get you nowhere, because when I started falling into this too, this is ages ago, back in 2014 and on, it's the same concept. I just started reading through other New Age accounts again in order to make this video. It's like, yeah, this is exactly the same that was preached 10 plus years ago, if not even 20 years ago, if not 30 years ago. There's nothing new that's ever been added, no new twist, no, whatever, unless it's a really narcissistic perspective, meaning a self-harming perspective in terms of, oh, now you have to channel source, and now you have to do this, and like all of those other egomanic trips that these new age people, you know, are pushing left and right to their followers. So yeah, in short, 5D ascension, is it true? I don't think the ascension thing, I think the ascension is just a huge BS at this point anyhow. I do think there are different realms, different realities we can dip in and out to, but it doesn't change the fact that you're still in this matrix reality. So it's not like you're really going anywhere outside. You're just experiencing perhaps a different reality for a little bit, and then you're falling back down, because that's basically where your soul is and where you need to work through everything in order to really get an overview of what it is you can do, what are the next steps, how you can really transcend this reality and what's really going on. And that has more to do with finding the real truth instead of the pseudo truth that the new age is keeping you roped in, hypnotized with all of the things. In religion, the ascension trap, the 5D ascension trap, is basically called salvation. You won't achieve that until you're gone, until supposedly you're dead, though, which I found interesting, because of course there's no way to verify you found salvation after your death, at least for the people who are left behind, right? So they've roped people in with all of that too, which I find is just so disturbing in and of itself. But yes, for the 5D and ascension, this is a new age concept. And then here's a good one, which I feel is maybe not discussed as much as it should be. But for a lot of these new agers, especially with the bigger accounts or even like the smaller ones, I already said the ego is out there, like the absolute overblown arrogance and confidence. That's what I mean by ego is really out there. So you can always dream big. Like, let's just say you're attending like a cacao circle or cacao ceremony, and you're like, oh yes, and I want to become a billionaire and this and that. You can always dream big as long as it's never bigger than them. And the moment you start uttering your dreams to them or your goals and aspirations, and you can tell it's bigger than their own goals and aspirations, because their world is kind of like much smaller than yours, right? Like you're actually in a much better position than them. That's when the potential psychic attacks, the witchcraft, all of that can happen, or just like the, you know, like the negative thoughts directed towards you, being like, who does she think she is, and blah blah blah. Another example is, and those are a form of psychic attack too, so they can really sabotage your life as well. You know, I just want to put that out there, being a part of this and thinking, oh, but we're all of the same tribe, we're all of the same mentality. No, there's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of ego in these circles. And ego is, you know, I'm not saying ego is good or bad or whatever, but it's like this actual arrogance, what I mean with ego, because ego of course can be healthy to have, but I mean this overblown arrogance that you see in a lot of different vocations and a lot of different fields of life, but especially in the 5D. You know, what I really think is people come into this new age 5D mentality, they don't really have much of a background in anything else. They've never accomplished that much in their lives, and all of a sudden, oh, an angel or an archangel or an entity, an Arcturian, Syrian, whatever entity is channeling something into them, and Galactic Federation of Light, and now there's someone. And that's something they've never experienced in their lives, because they've actually never really been someone in their life. So of course, it's this huge boost of arrogance that they now have. Another example of this dreaming big, just as an example, a girl was invited to like this show where they were giving like channelings, whatever. Her friends really wanted to go. Like this one girl didn't really want to go. And it turns out her friend wanted to go because she thought this channeler was so great. The channeler actually picked the girl who didn't really want to go, who was invited by her friend, and put her on stage and, you know, said some nice words or whatever to her. Oh, your energy is so great and this and that. The friend completely lost it and left her behind. And, you know, they weren't friends after this event anymore. So this is what I mean, dream big, but never bigger than them. You know, the friend obviously wanted to be pulled on stage and had all those nice words said to her, but it was the actual girl that didn't want to go. And so this is kind of, you know, like that ego that runs in those circles, no matter how big or small you are. A point that is also not discussed that much is one of shadow work. So there are these two extremes, especially in the new age. One is completely avoiding shadow work, and the other one is focusing too much on shadow work. And it's extremely hard, because the golden in between, the golden middle, is really what you should be seeking out if you're focusing on any type of shadow work, which a lot of people aren't, because it's very hard and it's very triggering. And there's a lot of trauma that can be unraveled and uncovered. But the avoiding shadow work category, like if you run into those type of new agers who avoid shadow work, those are the ones who are like, oh no, negativity doesn't exist. You're just manifesting those negative things into your life. Shadow work is just BS, blah, blah, blah. Then the other one comes, and I know this very well because I know at least one person who actually made it into her business. So, oh, shadow work is the most precious thing ever. And we're constantly going to talk about it like every single day. It's about the shadow, the shadow, the shadow. And you need to honor the shadow and every single thing that the shadow is telling you. And there's an unhealthy focus when you're in either of those extremes. And I do think there is a lot of depth to shadow work in general, but it doesn't really get you when you just hyper over focus on it. It really doesn't get you anywhere, is what I've noticed from my own personal experience of having worked or done this type of work years ago. It can mentally really disturb you and also bring you down, like bring you in areas of your life that they just don't do anything for you. And so if you just hyper focus on it, or if you avoid it, like both is unhealthy. So if you kind of just dig into it a little bit and then uncover what needs to be uncovered and let it rest. And then whenever you're ready again, like a few years after that, or a few weeks or months or whatever after it again, but like this, the hyper focus on it is not healthy from an energetic standpoint and spiritual standpoint. And the completely avoiding it is also not healthy. So again, it's all about balance, I think, especially for this concept. And there's not much balance to be found in the New Age in general. If you really look at it from that perspective and standpoint, a lot of these people are just not balanced out. They're either like all the way up here, channeling 24/7, giving their energy up to all of this. They're not in real life, right? Or it's like, and then I don't know if the opposite even really exists with the New Age, but I mean, there you go. This is one thing. So another one is not acknowledging or wanting to deal or see the importance of negative emotions. And this does not go for every single New Age out there, but the majority of it. So the overemphasis of positivity, always needing to stay positive, this and that, whatever, which takes you away from the real world versus why is the person feeling down? Why is the person feeling this anger? Where is it coming from? Is this perhaps a form of an entity attack? A lot of New Agers also don't believe necessarily in psychic attacks, entity attacks, or entity attachments, which I found so interesting. So every time I air something in regards to, oh, this is an entity, like a negative emotion is an actual psychic attack. Not all the time, but for the majority of it is actual frequencies, meaning EMF radiation or some sort of technology that the matrix controllers have that we don't necessarily have access to yet, because you don't have a super high military clearance or you've never worked on it in your life. But it doesn't matter. You don't need to know what exactly the technologies that you're using. You just need to know that it exists. Similar to the Schumann resonance, all of that should have also been put in these points. Is also like a New Age deception, like all these resonances, like Schumann resonances. Oh, now it's been scientifically proven, we're up and down. No, it's just the technology that they're using, that they're bombarding you with and they're keeping you down with, whereas you should be figuring out a way how you can shield yourself from that technology, which is usually just radiation radiating through your body. And of course, because you can't see it, you believe it's just energetic. But no, I do think there's an actual structure that they're using to bombard us with. And so when negativity comes in, yes, negative emotions can very well be created in that way. It can also be created in other ways, but it can also be something that you're working through because it's some sort of trigger that's coming up, and it's important for you to acknowledge that in order to actually move forward and move past that situation, right? And it requires a lot of introspection, and the New Age in general has nothing to do with introspection. It's just a lot about shoving things below the rug until they explode in your face. And then of course it's going to be your own fault because you're in this lower vibrational state instead of actually getting to the depth of things that really matter. And, you know, if it is an entity attack or some sort of energetic attack onto you, let's just say, like I said before, a negative emotions can be a form of psychic attack, then no, for some or the majority of New Agers, this doesn't actually exist. You know, they're in complete denial that this is even possible. So yes, it's a very narrow path and dangerous path you're walking if you're still part of the New Age, because it's one deception piled upon another. It just loops you around in circles over and over again, just like other cult-like mentalities do too. Yes, religion is one of those as well. It never gets to the real treasures of your own spirituality, like the holy grail of your own spirituality, like the holy grail of your own power as well. They barely really teach you how to read things on your own without calling upon entities. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned for an announcement later on in just a few weeks' time or so. But basically, it's just needing to follow people constantly for like energy updates, energy check-ins, because they have the nuggets, the golden nuggets. You can't ever have those. So they're keeping people very small and low with this entire New Age tribe or New Age mentality, New Age cult-like setting too. And in the worst case scenarios, the New Age has turned dangerous for people. You hear about things where people were following their leader so religiously that they all ended up unaliving themselves because the leader said to do that. Now, this is not just in the New Age, but it definitely has happened in the New Age. Or they didn't see any point in their lives anymore because all of a sudden the entities messed up their energy field so much that they didn't even know who they really were. And they weren't really taught anyways on how to ground or how to remove those, all of those attachments, all of those things that are in their field, intrusions, everything. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just this harmless, oh, let's just stop following these channelings or not. No, there's, for some people, I don't know if it's the majority of people, but for sure 50% or so, I would say it does completely disturb them. And it's also, when you follow something for so long, like a lot of people follow the New Age for quite a bit. I want to say half a decade or even longer. When you follow something for so long, it's basically your daily Bible, your daily digest that you're consuming. It's very hard to awaken to those deceptions as well, or to question them. And it usually takes like a huge bam event in your life, such as maybe, oh, but someone in my life died and the New Age is saying, oh, it's just because they were in lower vibration and something doesn't resonate with you, something like that. It takes an event like that or something other in your life to wake up. But it's necessary to really wake up because these things, once again, they can be quite dangerous for people. They're extremely misleading and they really don't get you anywhere. And none of the predictions have really come true. There's no depth to these predictions. There's no depth to, oh, the GFL said this and that. Okay, how does that relate to what's actually going on in our reality? So it really takes away the power that you have too, and the power that a group can have and come together and really do something about it. Like it's never really taught either, unless it's like during something like the Lionsgate portal or whatever, where they're trying to harvest your energy in a group setting or like group meditations, but they're not teaching you really how to come together in this group setting to maybe ward off a war or do this and that, whatever, right? Like seldom do you actually see that promoted in the New Age. So I find that really interesting as well. I hope this gives you anything, or maybe you have anything to add to this list. I know there are many other points that you could add, but in short, this is how the New Age really corrupts your soul, really keeps you down. And there are many other aspects to this. And as we go along, I'm going to talk about those as well.